there's two of us. We've got this product, this MVP product. I'm looking at it again with ignorance and naivety, and I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Like, this is amazing.
This is Salesforce Ben Insider, the podcast that brings you all the top Salesforce news, insights, and trends, completely unfiltered. Join me, Ben McCarthy, and some great special guests as we dive into the Salesforce discussions you won't hear anywhere else.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SF Ben Insider podcast, the podcast where we talk about Salesforce trends, news, and generally things that you won't hear anywhere else. And today, for my guests, I have Josh White from 720 and Ben Asfaha from PipeLaunch.
Hello, mate.
Good to have you here. How you doing?
Very good.
Thanks
for having us.
Yeah, no worries at all. So today we're going to speak about one of my favorite topics, entrepreneurship in the Salesforce ecosystem. And we're all founders of our companies in the ecosystem. So let's do the stories first. So who wants to go first? Your entrepreneurship story in the ecosystem.
Ben's is better than mine. Let's go with Ben's.
Okay. So my name is Ben. I started PipeLaunch about 3 years ago, ex-Salesforce. So I used to work for Salesforce. And whilst I was working at Salesforce, we came up with a need to help companies keep their Salesforce data clean. And that's really where we took the product to market. We realized after our first concept of the product that we were going towards the wrong way. Won a few customers, but couldn't really get customers to renew with us. And then on the back of that product, we had a feature, which was obviously the data cleansing, which really picked up. So we took that product to market very quickly. After we identified that, took onto the App Exchange, and within a month, we won our first 10 customers. And that's really the journey of PipeLaunch. We now build a lot more features and product on top of PipeLaunch, but remain a Salesforce ISV.
Nice. Thank you, Ben. Josh?
So I'm a co-founder of 720. I look after the commercial kind of function of the business, so technically CRO. But founded the business with my business partner, Max. We actually met at a Salesforce implementation partner, working alongside yourself, Ben. We've kind of got a combined expertise in both recruitment and also Salesforce. So, Max's background was he had a recruitment firm and he ran that business for about 6 years and saw kind of he implemented a couple of different recruitment specific CRM and ATSs during that journey, and there was just a common denominator that even once changing and trying to improve processes, the rigidness of those proprietary softwares were just really frustrating. It was very difficult and expensive to make customizations around like the data that you're capturing with fields. If you wanted to build a custom report, it was just very, very expensive and it took a lot of time to get it done. And one of the industries that he supported was the Salesforce ecosystem. And in the mid-2010s, he saw that industry just like blowing up, growing from strength to strength. So initially, the idea was to move into the Salesforce ecosystem to understand Salesforce consultancy and become a partner in that way, an SI partner. My route into the industry was, I'd always been a salesperson. I was fortunate enough to get into managing sales teams quite early on in my career. And I met Empower, the SI partner that I eventually joined during the evaluation process for an implementation that I was going to do for the business that I work for. And the problem that we're solving is, you know, when I joined the ecosystem and the way that the partnership channel works is SI partners get leads passed through or opportunities passed through to them from the Salesforce account executives. And so initially, when you're new to the ecosystem, you want to make friends essentially with those AEs, and the best way to do that is generate opportunities for them. And one of the industries that I thought made a lot of sense to target was the recruitment industry, because I knew a lot of people in the industry, a lot of my friends work in that industry, they rely heavily on CRM. It's a very sales-heavy role. So the logic in my mind was, why wouldn't they all be using Salesforce? I was ignorant at the time and a bit naive. What I didn't realize is Salesforce didn't have the recruitment specific tools or features that it needed. And then lo and behold, in kind of a weird turn of events, as Max went on his journey of learning to become more technical on the Salesforce platform, the best way for him to learn how to build on Salesforce was to apply it to a business use case that he understood, which was recruitment. And so, we'd meet up once a day, having a cup of tea or whatever out in the free space. And one day he just showed me that he'd built this kind of app on Salesforce, and that was my insight into it. And and then launched the business, and we've been going for 4 years. We've been trading 4 years, should I say, next month. Totally bootstrapped. We've gone from just the two of us to now 40 people, just over £3 million pounds in annual recurring revenue, and growing it around about 70% a year.
Wow. Super cool story. Thanks for that, guys. And I guess mine's, I won't go too much into mine, but mine's pretty random because mine started as me running Salesforce blog, starting Salesforce Ben back in 2014. And then it didn't actually turn into a product. It made some money between 2014 and 2020, but it wasn't until my wife and business partner, Lucy, went full time at the start of 2020. And then she actually started scaling, hiring people and stuff like that. And yeah, here we are today at 28 people and thriving. So
that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
But how do you guys view entrepreneurship in the Salesforce ecosystem? Because it's what I've always said about especially the app exchange is it's almost like a hive of innovation for Salesforce. Salesforce is such a slow moving giant. I mean, they don't move that slow, but they're a huge giant and they can't do everything. And a lot of stuff they wouldn't want to touch unless it's going to generate them potentially billions of dollars in the future. But yeah, I've always looked at the Salesforce ecosystem as very exciting in terms of entrepreneurship because there's so many people that I know that I've worked with, you and Max and met like you, Ben, that have always had an ambition to create a company in the ecosystem, and there's just so much opportunity out there. All the different products, different types of companies, whether it's like mine, Content One, or obviously you're both ISVs, but you've got SIs, you've got advisory firms, loads of different things. So yeah, how do you view the opportunity and entrepreneurship in the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think when it comes to ISV or to the whole ISV model or being on top of a platform, it definitely comes with a lot of benefits, but obviously there are drawbacks to it as well. When you go to market, you think about an idea, you could literally go solo, right? I could build an app tomorrow and just go to market. I think what's interesting with being an ISV in the Salesforce ecosystem is that you're leveraging a very, very powerful platform, right? And an existing ecosystem, right? You can leverage platforms like Salesforce Ben. I can leverage other partners in the ecosystem like 720, right? So there's already an existing ecosystem that you buy into. It gives you the ability to go at the speed of light at the very early stage of a startup, right? If you look at the startup, the biggest part of your business is trying to find a market fit. If you go solo, it will take you a very, very long time. If you do it on top of Salesforce, you're talking about 180,000 companies using Salesforce, and you've got a few million users, and you can just take it to market. And for us, it was the ability to take our product and expose it onto the App Exchange, which is the biggest B2B marketplace in the world, and very quickly get some traction, get some feedback, revamp the product based on the feedback, and then go back to market again. Of course, you need to pay to be on the App Exchange, so that's obviously one you could call it a drawback.
It's like a chunk of your revenue, right?
Correct. There's a revenue split.
Security review, which is a few thousand.
Yeah,
to
and
get
there's
on
some
there.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's a free product now, I think, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But even on your revenue as well, right? Depending on your status, you're either paying 15% or 25%, which is a big chunk.
And that's revenue as well, not profit.
Correct, on revenue, right? So that's always a constant cost you have, and you're not guaranteed that you will be generating business, right? Or new business by investing that 15% back. But I think the reason why we did become an ISV, I'm ex-Salesforce, so obviously that helped a lot. I used to work for other ISVs, so I understood the ecosystem. Previous to being in a Salesforce ISV, I was in a Microsoft ISV, so I was always in that ISV space, and I always found it fascinating that you go into an existing ecosystem and you can then leverage the existing partners, the existing influencers like yourself, right? That play a big role in the community. And I think that for us was that decision we made, that we're going to leverage the platform, the power of the platform, as well as the existing ecosystem within it.
Yeah. Anything to add?
Yeah, no, it's genuinely the day I stepped into the when I joined Empower, it was a place, like once you get your head around the ecosystem, you start to see from like every angle there is, because it is so symbiotic, like there's an opportunity to, you know, build partnership with Salesforce, like the main platform itself. You can network with the SI partners, that can be a channel, and other ISV applications that work alongside your product. So it's a great place. I think the other thing, like from our, like being bootstrapped, right? This might have been the only like smart thing I did in the whole. Everything else is probably Max, but there's two of us. We've got this product, this MVP product. I am looking at it again with ignorance and naivety, and I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Like, this is amazing. But who is going to trust me and my mate in our bedrooms selling them a CRM solution, right? It's kind of like pretty core to the business that these businesses are running. I just thought, you know, like me calling people up saying, you should use my CRM, it's great, just isn't going to work. And what the ecosystem provided was I could go to Salesforce and I could talk to them and I could say, look, this is an industry that you don't have a footprint in. I know this. If you did, why aren't all of these recruitment agencies using Salesforce already? And they work with you because there is a gap. And, you know, the benefit to us was that authority. You know, Salesforce are recommending you. These are a serious authority in the space. So that got us through those evaluations. The speed to build, like when someone, like when you go through that procurement process, and as we grow and we, you know, our biggest customer keeps growing and growing, we're starting to find our ICP, our largest customer's 400 users now. And we've built a product that is designed to scale. It's genuinely built for the largest businesses on the planet in our industry. But that procurement process, they look at us and it's like, what is that infrastructure that you have underneath you? And if you're going to build this off platform, you know, on some AWS server or whatever, the weight that carries is incredible. So yeah, there is a cost. There, you know, that percentage of your revenue that can feel painful. But could we have started a tech business bootstrapped without it?
Yeah,
absolutely not. So
yeah, like you could have thought of a B2C tech idea, the next killer app or whatever.
Yes.
But you probably wouldn't be able to launch it bootstrapped. You would have need to go out, raise a lot of money, you know, especially in the B2C world. And again, yeah, you have to build everything from scratch. Like Salesforce is more, I don't want to use the phrase plug and play because that makes it sound easy, but the framework is there.
At least like the schema, the object model, right? Before you start building the components that kind of harmonize everything within that object model. But yeah, just like the security of it. Like try and break into Salesforce.
If it's on the App Exchange,
it's on the App Exchange.
It's been reviewed and you can trust it.
Exactly.
You know? And we'll get into kind of talking about, you know, ideas, where do you get an idea from, that kind of thing. But another kind of massive benefit is obviously you were both, I mean, you were in the ecosystem for a long time. You were probably in it for like 2 years or something.
Yeah.
But the connections that you built up in those 2 years, well, I'm pretty sure were quite, like a lot of those AEs that you were speaking to were actually business services recruitment ones, right? So,
yeah, if you actually just like look at the journey on my, like what is it? Like 7 years ago? I had nothing to do with this, and now I'm told I've got maybe one of the fastest growing App Exchange products in the world, right? It's like that's an insane, like, and that's not intentional, by the way. There's a lot of luck involved here. Like, don't let me, but that is a testament to that. Like that just can't occur without, it's an amazing place. And what I do find, like these words, ecosystem or community or these buzzy words, but genuinely there's a lot of people that are willing to like talk to you and give you advice. And
yeah, it's true.
it's really, really like that. Yes, it's an amazing place for that, because there's a lot you don't know, and there's a lot I don't know, and that's one of the greatest things I've experienced over the last few years is I'm learning daily. But yeah, to have access and to get different people's perspectives, and it's been around a while now, the App Exchange. We just come from a meeting with a guy who's had an app on the App Exchange for 15 years, right? So in technology time, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And so to have like access to that is unbelievably powerful.
Yeah. We can come on to maybe some of the kind of disadvantages of running your own business, because there are some, but obviously there's a lot of positives as well. But I think entrepreneurship has been very glamorized with social media and the hustle kind of culture, like work nonstop and try and build something. But I think one of the, if you kind of take the kind of, the kind of money aspect of it, entrepreneurship is one of the real true ways to achieve true wealth. Right, like, because it completely detaches you. The exit you could potentially get from a business can be in the millions that would take you. Even if you were the CEO of a company earning whatever $500,000 a year, to achieve that same amount, you need to work for many, many, many years to achieve even the slightest kind of gain. So I mean, that's obviously one of the like big things. But kind of, what would you say? What's kind of your, the thing you like most about entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think it's what you said. You're detached from all the other metrics, right? You build your own metrics, you make your own decisions, and
So
having
the freedom
and having the control of your own destiny, I think is definitely one of the best parts of entrepreneurship. And being able to dictate your own KPIs, right? If you work for a bigger company, and I worked for Salesforce, I worked for other big companies. Very often you're so far from the decision, and if you're not far from the decision, you're just a number out of hundreds of thousands of people. If a bus was to run you over tomorrow, the company wouldn't notice it, right? The guy in San Francisco wouldn't even know that Ben or Josh ever existed, right? Because the scale is so big. And I think it's that beauty, and I think you only get that with entrepreneurship, which is that feeling of trying to fit in a puzzle piece. Your job is always to fix challenges, either internally or externally at the customer, right? But even just finding that market fit, where you start adjusting a product or learning. So like you were talking about learning, and learning new aspects of the market and being able to react to the market in real time. I think that's really the beauty of entrepreneurship, and that freedom that comes with it, of making your own decisions.
Yeah, I think it's that autonomy piece. Like people say, like, oh, you've done such a great job, or like, how was you so brave to take the leap of faith, or whatever, and it's like, and I sit there sometimes thinking, I didn't have another choice. like the reality is, like, you work with me, right, and we was in an interesting environment that was a unique business where actually they kind of promoted individualism, But, if you ask any other person that I've ever worked underneath before, I would be a very difficult person to manage, I have ways of doing things that are probably not conventional. This whole story is not very conventional. And I think there's just this common thread that I see, like, across, it doesn't matter what the domain is, if you're, artsy, a religious leader, whatever it is, business, I think people like get something from being able to be creative. Like that, I think, creates fulfillment. Like it's you see a problem and you can have an impact on it, and you might get it wrong, right? For me, like I say, it's like it's not even a choice. It's like, if I get to the end of my life and I look back, like, how am I going to feel about it, whether I took the leap of faith or not? And that's what it gives me. Like, obviously, there's also like this weird like irony to the fact that I probably work longer hours now than I've ever worked in my life, but my weeks feel shorter.
Yeah.
Than
It's
they've
more
ever
fulfilling.
felt, right? So, to, like, get that one right, like, figure that out. It's. I always used to notice it, like when you join a business, even as an employee, right, and you're new to it, and you're trying to learn, and you're like, and you see like someone else who's good at what they're doing or whatever, and their calendar's just fully busy, and your calendar's just empty. You're like, how do I get it like that, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it, like, yeah, there's this. That's why I always get a bit confused with the whole like work-life balance thing, right? It's like some of the most fulfilled people I see professionally are some of the busiest people, and then it's like, you know, I really think you've got to try to find things that you know you have a conviction to and believe in, and then it like you start to kind of like swim downstream as opposed to like fight the current constantly. But yeah, I think it's the autonomy for me. That's what it like is the major benefit. There are so many downsides.
Yeah, I mean, I like I can think of one like I remember when we first like had a big hiring spree, like 5 or 6 people or something like that. We must have probably 4 people. We had 5 or 6 in like a couple of months or something, and then I was paying like all the pay slips, and then the amount of money coming out of the bank, and I was just like, oh god, like you're just like. Because you're quite responsible for quite a lot of people,
Yeah.
and then it can really affect, like it can be quite anxiety inducing if something was to happen to the business or something happens to the economy or something.
Yeah.
You are responsible for your employees, and hopefully if you're a good, you know, entrepreneur founder, you want to take care of them. So I find that can be quite.
Yeah.
I kind of get more, as the years go by, I get more used to it. It's, you know, we add on more people, and it's like, okay, I'm kind of used to this now, and you've got more stability because.
The business becomes a bit more robust.
Yeah, a bit more. You know, you've got a sales engine or whatever, so it becomes less. But you're still little. I find little things can affect me quite a lot and become quite anxiety inducing.
Yeah, no, well, like it's. I always find there's like this. You find that whole like term of like new normal. Like you break through something.
Yeah,
and then it like normalizes, and then you're like, oh no, there's a new thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and and you just come out of this like anxiety-induced roller coaster. But then you like get a perspective. You look back and you go, okay, that like what is now normal is actually super amazing. Like that's incredible. But yeah, I think you more so if you ask the people around me, like my partner or my family, like there are sacrifices that you have to make, and it's not even like, you know, as the business has grown and there's people you can delegate to. That's a real like difficult skill to learn. Delegation.
Something
Like,
it took me
and
a while to
I'm still terrible at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, you know, you're one of the owners of the business, so you have a level of autonomy. You can start to make decisions around, you know, what's important to you. And I, like one thing I have started to learn in life, and it might just be because I'm getting old, but like time is a currency, and you're going to only have one of these lives, and you're not going to be able to get that bit back. So there is obviously a massive amount of sacrifice, but you've got to try to prioritize things. But the one thing I really struggle with, and I think has an impact on you know, even my partner and my family sometimes, is even if I give the time to a certain thing, it's very, very difficult to stop. Because the business is still moving underneath, right? And so your brain is there, and to detach from that is so difficult.
I every time my head hits the pillow at night, I'm like problem solving for the business, and I've learned to kind of shut it off recently because it's really annoying actually. Like and then sometimes I'm kind of pulling out my phone and writing down a note for myself because I think I've just solved something. Yeah.
So there is like that is a like, again, for me, I don't think I had a choice. I left school at 16. I don't have this like an amazing degree or whatever. So, you know, if you could go and find an amazing career where you can, you know, and financially the prospects are there in that direction, maybe that's a good option.
Yeah.
And maybe, again, I've never experienced it, so I can't speak for those kind of people, but is there as an employee, I do think that you owe it to yourself to be able to get home and shut off,
switch on,
and I used to. I can at least I remember those times. But yeah, there is a constant whirl of things that I'm thinking about. But at the same time, like this, it's a huge amount of responsibility. We've got people that, and so I owe it that as well. So it's just trying to find that balance, I think.
Yeah. Anything to add, Ben?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's becoming easier now with me. So I always try to block 2 hours a day religiously. I mean, the Queen of England could be knocking at my door. I wouldn't open the door. It's 2 hours where I'm just doing my thing, right? It could be going for a walk in the forest, could be a swim, it could be a cycle. But I always have 1 hour in the morning after I drop off the kids and 1 hour in the afternoon, and just to clear my head and to get out.
So not non-work.
Non-work.
Nice.
I put my phone on do not disturb. Only the nursery can come through to me. Obviously, if there's an emergency, you need to be reachable. But apart from that, I just completely, for those 2 hours, I switch off. It could be the biggest customer, the biggest opportunity. I don't care. Those 2 hours a day, I take them for myself, just to have that mental health and that difference between work and private, right? And because I work from home, right? And I think that's a big difference between 720 and PipeLaunch. We're fully remote, right? We have people in Portugal, Belarus, Sweden, Germany, different cities in Germany. There's no 2 people in the same city. So we have people in Frankfurt, Cologne, Munich. So we fully remote, which means that I'm working in the office, in the home office every day. I don't go to see my colleagues on a daily basis. So I need to have those 2 hours just to make sure that, to have that sanity check. Right, and
this has got better for you, right? Because I remember, like, maybe a couple of years ago, I used to see your calendar when you share your screen, and it was like demo, like 30 minutes, like chunks every single day for the whole day of demos.
So that got a lot better. But I have to agree with Josh. I think delegating is not always easy because there's certain things that you can do them not because you're better, but you can do them better. Purely because you've been with the company longer, the intricacies, the customer already, the person. And then on situations like that, letting go becomes very difficult, right? So you still have to let go and you have to let your team fail and then coach them back if they have failed. But giving that, it becomes difficult. But that has helped massively, right? Delegating stuff, giving stuff away and letting people take ownership and letting people make those mistakes, learn from those mistakes has been a game changer for me. Because otherwise, you just, like you said, you just blocked from morning till evening.
Yeah.
And I think as a founder, it's very dangerous because if you find yourself in that operational mode, you're not building the business. You're just operationally working. You don't have any vision. You're not working on alliances. You're not working on strategy. And that can be a business killer because your competition will be growing, will be working on strategy, and you just focus on the day-to-day. Yeah. And then one day it hits you, right? It's when you see your competition suddenly coming up with a brand new product and you think, where did this come from, right? But yeah, so that's definitely been useful to have people in the team to take over stuff.
With the delegating thing, like I always used to get that advice from people, like delegating is not easy and you should try and master the skill. And I was just thinking, no, it's different with my business because the people that we hire, they don't have 10 years of like Salesforce content creation experience. But I realized actually it's no different from other businesses. It's just working out the formula. Like instead of me doing, tasks which would take 3 hours, actually I do 10 minutes of working with the team and then they can easily carry on, the rest of that task with the context that I provide. So that's been a huge kind of mindset shift for me and help to real scale the business.
Just giving that guidance, I think, is what makes the difference. Because you always think you have to do the task from the beginning till end.
Yeah.
But sometimes your IP or your intelligence or your knowledge, is giving those first 10 minutes.
Just steering.
Correct.
Steering.
Yeah.
So obviously a problem for a lot of like budding entrepreneurs is like what idea to focus on, and as we discussed, you've got kind of, Salesforce consultancies is kind of a, there's kind of a playbook to start a Salesforce consultancy, but ISV, obviously you can create pretty much anything. So where should potential entrepreneurs go looking for that initial idea, that initial spark, and how do they make sure it's got legs? It's got, it's going to have some sort of product market fit. How do people kind of, because I'm sure lots of entrepreneurs have like 10 ideas in their head or something like that, but which one do they go after?
Yeah. Well, when we did like decide to go out and do this, myself and Max, at that moment in time, we was discussing tons of different ideas we had, and the one that we settled on was the one that we had the most amount of like expertise in. We really deeply understood Salesforce as a platform. Technically, we deeply understood the ecosystem, and then we deeply understood the industry that we was going to support. And I think, like, with me, like, look, sales is a big part of any business, right? If you don't have any sales, you're not going to have a business too long, right? And I've always found when selling, I don't even like the word selling, to be honest with you, but when selling or being able to educate or convey a message effectively, I have to have conviction and belief in what it is that I'm talking about. And for me, that comes with like almost anecdotes. Like, you know, I've actually experienced this. And it's just it's not even like it's like an undisputable fact at that point. It's just like this scenario happened, and I think the more, like, when I thought about it, like, I was selling alongside Salesforce, Sales Cloud a lot of the time, alongside our like SOW, and doing that successfully. And I was like, well, why can't I sell a CRM product on Salesforce that's even more verticalized specifically for an industry? Like, why wouldn't that be more successful than, you know, one of the challenges that I had as an SI partner was we had this hyper growth focus and that made a lot of sense from like a niche perspective, but these businesses that we were supporting were all in different industries, right? So they looked, the shape and sizes of what they were trying to do was all very, very different. And I found in the SI space, it was really, really difficult to differentiate yourself from other SI partners. Yeah. Like how did, like, and I do think the best ones, like from being in it a little bit longer now and looking back, are those ones that are industry experts. They understand the businesses that they're talking with. They understand the challenges that they have, and then they're able to implement great solutions.
I remember at Impact, because we did have a kind of financial services focus, right? And just when we got a few of those reference customers, a few big names, you know, it just made things so much easier because
I think that was more you as well, in particular around like when it was like the pension bees and nutmegs and that kind of stuff. Then when I saw that with you, I think mine was actually a little bit more broad in terms of like the different brands that we did end up working with, but yeah, you can start to see how that traction and momentum starts to kind of build. Yeah. And in the same way, that's why Salesforce is verticalized that way with the account executives there, because you become a subject matter expert, you know, so.
I love what you said though. What do you say when you said you were referring to anecdotes, saying it's undisputed, like when you're speaking about
like
actual real life experience as opposed to just this is my product, it's cool.
It's like this thing actually happened to me, right? Yeah. So it's like this is what I mean. It's like, and this is why I really don't like the term selling. To me, I've always felt like it's like you've convinced someone to buy something. It's like that's not. Well, that's wrong.
That might have been like 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, for me, like, the idea of what we do is, like, I have this solution, and if it aligns to the challenges that you have, then we should, like, there is a mutual benefit here, right? Because I'm going to say, if I sell you something that doesn't align to the problems or challenges that there's a very short term, I'm going to get some revenue, and then you're going to churn, right? And this is, like, majorly important from not from like a sales perspective, but if this is your business, like one of the things that I think we've done amazingly well at is the clients that we've brought on in this, like, they've been the right clients. They've stayed with us. We are sharing from the mutual success of this. If you make too many of those mistakes and you sell to the wrong people, they're going to kick up a massive fuss and it's going to cause a big issue.
Which is very stressful if you've got big clients who are unhappy and
unbelievably stressful. But not only that, right? There's some benefits as a startup that you have, or a scale-up business, or a small business, and the majority of that comes around agility and dynamism. to get things done, right? Your competitors, they're way more legacy. You know, they're slower moving, and that's broadly across like every department of the business, like the product development, but the sorry, I've lost the thread of my thought.
You were speaking about selling and
Yeah, so it's about the product.
Ideas in the ecosystem, no?
yeah.
No, no, it was about the.
Might just leave this bit in for lols.
Yeah, no, that'd be really good. What was the point I was saying? Like, so we have some advantages, right? Which is the agility.
Mm-hmm.
The advantage is that that's your advantage as being a small business, but the advantages that our competitors have is that, you know, they can get it wrong. These are big businesses, they're super robust, but you're only as good as the last implementation, the last deal that you did, right? Your reputation in an early business is everything, right? So that's why finding the right customers that match you, and getting that ICP is just absolutely like paramount, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And how about you, Ben? How did you have like loads of ideas that you were evaluating, or was PipeLaunch like a really obvious one to go for?
No, it wasn't. I think like every entrepreneur, we had like 1,000 ideas. And if you look at the ecosystem, it's very interesting. You have, and without mentioning them, there's probably, I could name 10 right now, ISV partners. They've got a stack of solutions ranging from document generation to payment gateways to forms and so on, all within one umbrella. Mm. Right, and they just go find a challenge in the Salesforce ecosystem, create a product, put it on the Epic change. You go on their website, they got 10 different products that don't really relate to each other, right? So you have that approach. And then you have the approach, like Josh said, where you know an industry, you're going to focus on that industry, you're going to find a solution, you're going to solve a pain, right? And when it came to PipeLaunch, we did try that. We had hundreds of different ideas. So we went to market with, we're going to start a business, right? We had a number of ideas that we worked on. Actually, one of them was around HR, not recruitment, but HR. But then every product brought us closer to what PipeLaunch is now, right? Because you start, you know, the thing is, and that's what I like about the Epic change or Salesforce, you can take a product to market within a couple of weeks, right? Once the product is in the market, you can get feedback within a couple of days from customers, right? People will always be open to tell you what they like about the product, what they dislike, what challenge they actually have. And if you actually listen to the customers, you're very quickly onto something. Mm. But the interesting thing about entrepreneurship, you will never be, if you asked me 3 years ago, I would have never thought that a big chunk of our customers are in the recruitment space right now, right? Because that's not what we built the product for. But then thanks to the partnerships that you build, thanks to the openness, and I think that's something very, very important in entrepreneurship. Ego can get in your way, right? You should always be open to learn from other businesses. What are other businesses doing? Whatever their background is, you need to learn from people, right? And you need to be open to go to people for advice and say, hey, this is what we're thinking about our product. What's your opinion? You know this industry, or you know that market better than me. And that's something that we at PipeLaunch is very strong in our DNA. It's listening and learning and getting feedback, whether it's constructive or positive feedback. We're always after feedback. And I think that's very important in entrepreneurship if you want to build a product that you can sell, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can replicate very quickly. We won a law firm a couple of years ago, and we won one university. We listened so well to them that we then started winning other universities, other law firms, right? Because we started changing the language on our website, and people suddenly said, "Oh, you understand our industry." Not really, but we service the cosmetic industry, and they taught us what the challenges are.
That's one of the most incredible things I've noticed. Like if you like do a custom demo and you just rename some fields.
Yes.
Yeah.
You rename an object.
Just like Tinserve lingo or something.
You rename an object to something that they've said, and it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
You get
can't
me.
believe this.
It's like when I quite like, you know, I've been into like trading stocks and stuff, but I'm by no means a financial services expert. But when you can use a few of the lingo and you understand the acronyms and you can relate what they're doing to Salesforce, you know, you don't need to be an expert at all. You just need to know about the industry of it. So it makes the world of difference. Funding. So funding's been an interesting one, and Ben, you've taken funding, right?
Yes.
But Josh, you're bootstrapped.
Yep.
So that's obviously the two routes in starting any startup or ISV, and I think the landscape has kind of changed over the past few years. I think because there was so much funding going around at like the 2019, 2020, right around COVID, like huge amounts of funding flowing into the ecosystem, but it kind of dried up over the past few years because of the kind of macroeconomic environment, and now it's kind of coming back, but it's mostly it's mostly going to like Gen AI. Like I heard this story the other day about the SoftBank CEO. I can't remember his name now.
They always pick winners.
But he was he was like in a interview with in a meeting with someone about their startup, and he said at the very start, he said, "Is this about Gen AI?" And the guy was like, "No," and he was just like, and then just turned it off and then walked away.
Yeah.
So a lot of AI focused funding at the moment. But Ben, what were some of the reasons that you decided to take funding as opposed to bootstrapping a business?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think it's a very important point that you're raising, because you have two options when you start a business. You either go solo, do your own thing, or you get some funding, right? Getting funding is not as easy as putting your hand up and someone gives you €1 million, or pounds or dollars. You really need to invest a lot of time to go out there and raise. So that's one decision you need to make, whether you want to do it or not. And then it's also got to do with how quickly you want to scale your business, how quickly you want to hire people and have people on the team, and how quickly you need them. For us, we decided to we got 3 rounds in the end, 3 funding rounds from angels, so high net worth individuals that were part of our network, and who then invested in PipeLaunch. One of them was my old boss from 15, 16 years ago. I think you met one of them, Lothar. Really cool guy, and then obviously he introduced us to some other investors. When you're in front of that decision, you need to be aware that you're giving away part equity of your business. Now, the bad thing is, if you ever do an exit, your cut of the cake will be a lot smaller, but you will accelerate your growth. You will survive times that will be difficult, because, and I don't know the statistic in the UK, because in Germany it's something like 90% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. So it just removes those odds and increases the odds into your favor. That's why businesses do it. But what you can't forget is when you give that equity away, you also win a network of mentors, of some very, very experienced people. It's in their interest for you to be successful, and you have free access to some amazing mentors. And I think that definitely is one of the positive things that people don't talk about. Of course, you're giving equity away, but you get cash. And you get mentors, because these people want you to be successful. If you want to do another round, they give you access to a VC fund, for example, because they're also limited partners in a VC, meaning they also be invested in the VC. So those are the considerations you need to make, but it's not an easy decision, right? Because once you accept funding, let's say that your business is valued today at 1 million, the investor expects at least a 10x return. So you can't sell until you reach 10 million. But then to reach 10 million, you need to get more funding. And then the new investors that came on the second round, they want you to get to 50 million. So historically, you always tell those rounds where it goes to round E and F, because these companies are trying to get out of that cycle ultimately, right? And be able to finally become a unicorn. So you have to be careful how you do it, and you need to make sure that you still try to be profitable. PipeLaunch still tries to be profitable. But I think there's also the theory of, if there's cash available, even if you're profitable, you should consider taking it. Should you need to expand in the near future, or should you need to take advantage of an opportunity, whatever that opportunity might be? But it doesn't mean you will be more successful than a bootstrapped company. There's many, many bootstrapped companies, and both of you are an example of that, growing a lot faster than companies that got funding. I spoke to a company that's in our network. They got 20 million funding 2 years ago, and they're still not generating 100K revenue a year, and they got 20 million funding, right? So just receiving funding doesn't mean that you will be this super successful company. Most companies that got funding that are your age are not doing the revenues that you guys are doing, right? So there's always 2 ways of doing it. But there's also the theory that you could grow a lot faster with cash, right? And that's a fact. If you had more cash in the bank now, Could you grow 10x? Of course you could, right? But maybe
Well,
you
if it was
couldn't
me, I could spend some of that down the drain.
Yeah, but that's a very
the
good
risk.
point. But that's a very good point. I'm happy that we got the funding when we got it, because we were very close of getting a big round in the beginning of the business of 2 million. I can guarantee you today, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
The business wouldn't be here right now because we would have destroyed the whole money.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have an ICP, we didn't know what we were doing. We would have wasted all of it. We wouldn't be here today, right? And by not having the money, we had to be smart. We had to think, because suddenly we're not talking 2 million rounds, we're doing 300, 400, 500K rounds. Then you need to be a lot smarter about the money, right?
Yeah.
How do I make myself profitable for 6 months so that I can burn for 6 months, and so on, right? So you look at cash completely differently. And very often when you see these big rounds, and the reason why they go bankrupt, because they just start spending the money without knowing where to go.
Wait.
You need to test it first, right? And when you have 10 million, you don't test, you just go in, right?
Yeah.
You just burn
It's
it.
like a mindset shift.
I think it is. It's learning to be frugal. Like there's so many like in today's day and age where it's just like, you know, it's gone insane. Like the money system is just outrageous, right? But these old-fashioned like kind of morals of actually watching how you spend money and being frugal, I think that can create real sustainability. Like because it's very like as you grow and you get more resource. Like if you do that in that kind of like organic way, you start to like, it's not this big bang. Like genuinely, I don't know, like I would be scared if I was given $10 million tomorrow. You know, I think I've got ideas around how I would spend that wisely, but it's a big task, you know. So I think it's like I was saying before, you know, like those new normals. Like, you know, as you start to grow organically and you get more and more resource, and then you, like, you know, a lot of what we did when we was building our business, we had to hire like quite junior level staff and really train them intensively. It's really, really difficult. And now we've got to a point now where we can start attracting amazing talent, people that could come in and have massive impact into our business, which is super exciting. But I feel like that's like a nice evolution to working with what you've got and then like go from there.
And what was the kind of magic mix of ingredients that meant you didn't need to get funding?
That is a good question. So this is what like this is where I think genuinely you should try to experience all areas of the ecosystem, because we had access to talent because we worked at the SI partner that we worked with. So many of the people that are in the kind of early part of 720 come from the SI partner, and we had firsthand, like we could see the quality of these people, right? And our CTO Alex is an absolute genius. Like we're so lucky, you know.
An occasional blogger for Salesforce.
Yes, he is, right? But like
busy.
I'm telling you, like if you look at like him like Premiership football like teams or players, like this guy is top tier engineer, you know, and it's just amazing that our paths, like there's a lot of things that have to like the stars need to align, and but you get first-hand insight, and plus you start to know other SI partners, you start to know other people in the ecosystem that you'd think that these people would be great to work with. So that's where it's like I think if you can try to have experience across all areas, that's really, really powerful, because our access to that talent was the thing that was able to get us off the ground.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Am I allowed?
Yeah, go for it.
Across the journey of funding, because we haven't done it, but it's, you know, it's always something that you talk about. And you said a really good point there. Sometimes the thing that you overlook is the mentorship, the experience that you get from these other people. I imagine at the very beginning, right, you don't have too much control of the investors that you get, right? Because it might be at a conceptual like stage. But how do you figure out, like, is this person more than just the money that they're giving me? Like, how do you figure out?
Yeah, and I think that's a very important concept in getting smart money on board. We turned down a few investors. Can give an example. We had one that was coming from the construction industry. It was just not a match.
Yeah.
And he would have invested a significant amount, but he was so far from mentally and from a mindset perspective from where we were. And don't forget, we were selling a piece of PipeLaunch to some people that didn't come from the Salesforce ecosystem. So the first part of the job is teaching them about Salesforce. So if he was super successful in the construction industry, but that wasn't enough to convince him and to bring him into the Salesforce ecosystem. But what always excited me is when we got people that could cover some of our blind spots. We have one mentor through our investment fund that comes from HR. She's the head of HR for a very well-known German startup. Anything around HR, I can call her, WhatsApp her, and start talking about, look, I had this issue with the employee, hasn't showed up for a week, can't reach him, what would you do in my position, right?
Yeah.
So things like that are very useful. And many of them come from the VC world as well, so they taught me and helped me build a pitch, how to speak to VCs. So we always look for those, but sometimes you will get cash, which is not the smartest cash in the world, but they are good cash to have, right?
Yeah.
So one of the hardest things for people when they're getting started, they might have built a product or something like that, is getting traction with it. Maybe you're bootstrapped, maybe you've got no marketing budget, maybe you've got a network in the ecosystem. But how, we can talk a bit more generally of tips for entrepreneurs wanting to get started, but, how would someone look to get traction initially with their products? I mean, the whole MVP kind of approach, right, is get people using your product, even if it's broken and messy and the UI is terrible, but get them using it so you can adjust it to their market fit. Is that still the valid approach to take, that kind of MVP approach?
I mean, if someone ever says to you, I've just had this business idea, I presented it to 10 potential customers and they loved it, they're probably lying to you, right? Because you don't, if you want to find a product or test a product, you need to get used to getting slapped on the face, right? Because everyone is going to tell you that it's missing this, it's missing that. And I think the best test is just to put it on we did AppSumo. I don't know if you know AppSumo.
I've heard of it.
It's like beta testing site where you can just put your product on it and people can use it for free. And I think that was very useful for us because then we got feedback very quickly and we got slapped very often. But with every slap, you become a bit smarter, believe it or not. And then you start building a product that people actually need and like. But we gave our product away for free. And then we got onto the App Exchange after we had tested the product, and we got, in the first month, I believe it was 10 customers we got. Wow. Paying customers, first one.
From the App Exchange?
From the App Exchange.
Wow. Really?
And yeah, one was a 260 ARR deal, super small. And then the second one, 2.5K ARR. But yeah, you have to test the product. You need to get it in front of people before you think about generating revenue, right? You just give it away for free, get some users, get feedback, because that's the feedback that will help you then build something bigger out of it.
It's also a bit of a skill. It's funny you mentioned, if you just ask people, hey, is this a good idea? Would you use this? It's very easy for them to go, yeah, sure, it looks
because
great.
They like you. You're asking your mates, they'll be
yeah,
like, I love
exactly.
it.
But there's actually a book about this. I forgot what it's called, Mum something or something like that. But there's actually a whole book on how to interview people for your product, because you need to ask certain questions, not just, does it look good? Would you buy that? Would you pay 10 grand for it or something? Because people just want to please. So
yeah, and it's funny, and people don't do that because they don't like you. I had this ex-colleague that kept telling me, oh, amazing product, we're going to buy it. Okay, so where's the money, right? Oh, not this year. We don't have budget this year. We don't have budget this month. We don't have budget this week. And it kept going on and on and on. And that's when you realize it just wasn't a fit, right? But friends do it because they like you, right? They don't realize it's hurting you more than just saying, hey, it's not a product for us.
Yeah.
But, and that's why you get used to getting feedback and get strangers, to give you feedback, not just friends.
Yeah.
What would you say, Josh?
Well, we was in a situation where we had no money, so to get traction, we needed to sell it to generate some revenue, and then reinvest and just keep going. And like I touched on this earlier, but for me, I think it might be different based on the types of products, because like if you look at like PipeLaunch, for example, like I refer to them as kind of an auxiliary application. It kind of like bolsters out the functionality of like core Salesforce, right? And us, we've got this huge responsibility. Our product, we're kind of the master vendor. This is what everything runs off of. We are the core
CRM built on Salesforce.
Yeah, core CRM and ATS, applicant tracking system. So it's a major, major piece of the puzzle. It's a core piece of infrastructure. And yeah, maybe it was an internal objection, but I just felt like me calling random recruitment companies up saying, "Do you want to look at my CRM?" And I've got this great CRM or whatever. I just and you do a quick search, there won't be too much like reassurance there. So as I say, the way we gain traction is I needed an authority to be able to make that recommendation, and I thought that is Salesforce. If Salesforce are backing you, if Salesforce can articulate, it's also so selfless, right? Because if you think about it, I'm a Salesforce AE. I have an inbound lead come in via my marketing campaign or BDR, whatever it is, and you sit there, you have a 30-minute call with a recruitment company, and you say, "Look, I've heard everything you've said. I really don't think Sales Cloud's the right thing for you. You're going to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on implementing this, and largely that'll disqualify them. But we have this partner who has taken a Salesforce license and made it specific to your industry, and they've got all of those recruitment specific features there, with the added benefit of it being as flexible as Salesforce." And that for the prospect is so disarming because you're getting such amazing advice. It's selfless in a way.
And I think you worked that out when you were working at Empower, right? So
Yeah.
you were speaking to these
Yeah, I was doing that
AEs
while
casually.
Yeah. Well, for
and found out that actually it sounds a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it? Because you think the AE would push Sales Cloud no matter what.
Well, that's a bit like, as an OEM partner, there is that tension, right? Why would I give up that? But what we realized by looking at the success that Salesforce had had in this industry vertical, they never won. The close rate on the recruitment opportunities was so low.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, surely winning some and you getting because we pay a revenue to Salesforce, right? So there is something in it. Winning more often than not will be better. Once we land them on the platform, there's all of these cross-sell opportunities. You can sell Marketing Cloud to our clients. You could, now we've got Agentforce that can be sold to 720 customers. So, but if you lose them off platform, there's no revenue.
So maybe just before we wrap up, then we can just kind of give our final advice to entrepreneurs out there. It's something that we're looking into a lot at the moment, but I do think something we were speaking about the other day, that the entire SaaS landscape is going to change with AI, with agents, but not just the kind of SaaS. I mean, I think AI is going to make a lot of apps irrelevant, because I don't know if you've seen Operator.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Insane.
It looks cool.
Or like OpenAI's deep research, and you can now use tasks, so you can set automated tasks on OpenAI as well. Anyway, AI is changing so much. It's going to 100% disrupt startups. Some startups are going to go out of business. It's going to make some app categories, I think, completely irrelevant. So it's a really interesting time, but that also means there's a lot of opportunity, because it's not AI is not just going to OpenAI is not just going to blanket disrupt these industries. There's going to be new apps that people are going to create. And I think the really interesting thing with AI is you can obviously use AI to create apps, right? You can use it to write code and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's not perfect, but if you're looking to create an MVP, maybe I know you and Max use some developers, right, to create some custom components back when you were first starting. You might have been able to use AI, right now, and save that bit of extra cash working with developers. So it's a very, very interesting time.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, from the development perspective, that's probably not my bag, but the AI landscape, it's something that is, it's one of those things that I still think is figuring itself out. There's a lot of theoretical, and it's probably right. The direction is it's just maybe not here right now today, and we maybe might be 6 months out, 12 months out.
I have a feeling the tipping point
is coming.
Because it's been slow for so long, hasn't it?
Yeah,
I feel the tipping point is right round the corner.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been in the zeitgeist now for what? 24
end
months?
Of 2022, so just over 2 years.
Yeah, so and the rate it's progressing at is actually, like, that Operator does look incredible. The thing that helps me sleep a little bit at night is I do think a big part of the how these language models work is that contextualized data that you feed it, and that structured data, and so that is. I think that's where we have a benefit of our product being
need
built
databases
on Salesforce. Exactly, yeah. And yeah, what does that actually mean? Databases that are filled with good data. It does come down to architecture. That's why I think having control over your schema and being able to have, build custom objects. I think those more proprietary systems that are like rigid and like off the shelf, out the box, they are at risk, because I genuinely think you could maybe get an AI to start building that kind of code. When you look at the complexity of the declarativeness of the back end of Salesforce, it's almost, the complexity is almost cubed.
Operator can actually, we were testing it out.
Oh, really?
It can actually build flows and stuff, and it's not
it can
perfect,
build flows.
but it does work.
No, and that
Scary.
stuff's great, and I think almost is that's an advantage, right? So now the cost to develop, like the declarative development, is now like that should be driving that down. So we should be able to, the professional service revenue or cost there should be going down.
Yeah.
But the thing that makes you be able to build a flow, like, and the thing that, you create a custom, and it creates that table, and and that engine behind Salesforce is or to create a record type or whatever it is. That's it's complex, because there's not really anything like it. The closest thing to it is Dynamics, and there's not really, it's still not there.
Yeah. It was also very interesting. I don't know if you saw DeepSeek, the whole DeepSeek drama the
I
other day.
actually only saw it because of your
really?
coming through my feed.
But like when all this Nvidia was down 17%, 1 trillion wiped off their market cap, Salesforce went up.
Yeah.
Because if I don't know if Salesforce would use DeepSeek, probably not, but it's saying that the cost of using AI is going to come down.
Yes.
Therefore, the users of Salesforce will get more benefit. So,
100. That's what I'm saying, and that's, each person's org on Salesforce is, unique to them, and to have the freedom to structure data in the way that you want it, and then feed that related data into these models.
Yeah.
That's where, as businesses, you can start to innovate.
Definitely.
I think it's the golden era now of startups for that reason. If you now, and it's funny you mentioned DeepSeek, because when we looked at ChatGPT when it came out, everyone thought the first people going is going to be the service workers, the people working at the shops. The first people impacted were developers, right? So you got companies like Google, Facebook, and Salesforce not hiring more developers. So we thought they weren't going to be impacted developers. They're going to be the last ones being impacted. And at the same time, we thought that that's it. OpenAI and ChatGPT, they're safe now, because they're the pioneers of this kind of technology. And now you got DeepSeek coming around the corner, right? They're now becoming a victim as well, because now the makers of Alibaba, they've got Quant, and
it's meant to be even better than DeepSeek.
It's meant to be even better, right? And I think as a fund, you just need to make sure that you have an interchangeable, because LLMs are becoming commodities, right? You now need to make sure that you can change that and change your application of AI to any other LLM models as well. But that's the beauty of it right now. You are now valued on the application on top of AI, not the AI anymore, because everyone's got access to AI. And I think that's the golden era of entrepreneurship, what we're seeing right now.
I agree, and that's why those architectural decisions, like for us, that's why we're not married to any particular AI model, And that is, like with anything that you're building on Salesforce, it really is like that secret is to really consider the architecture and the engineering behind it. Like Salesforce is loved for its flexibility, scalability, modularity, and so the last thing in the world you want to do is come onto the platform and start building things that are rigid, because you've just ruined the beauty of it. And and I think it's exactly what you're saying.
All right. Great quote to end on. So thank you so much, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Ben.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having us. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.